The playoffs are here, and you can predict the action all the way to the finals with FanDuel Predicts. Predict the spread, the total points, and even the game-winning moments that make the playoffs. Sign up and get a $25 bonus with FanDuel Predicts.
Offered by FanDuel Prediction Markets, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant. 18-plus bonus is non-withdrawable and expires 7 days after receipt. Trading derivatives involves significant risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Manage your activity with their consumer protection tools. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel.com/predicts/bonus-offer-terms.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Taxi. Okay, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Hello, folks. This is not Larry Kudlow. This is Steve Moore. By the way, Larry Kudlow was the best man at my wedding. So Larry is my best friend in the world, and it is quite an honor to be sitting in his seat today because he is traveling back from the Reagan Library for an incredible event that they had honoring I believe Ronald Reagan was one of our 5 greatest presidents. But now we are joined by 2 of the superstars in politics. Whenever I have a question about a political race or what's going on politically, I turn to Roger Stone and I turn to John McLaughlin. John McLaughlin, obviously, you know, is one of the top pollsters in America. Gentlemen, thanks for joining.
Pleasure to be here. Delighted to be here.
All right. So I just said that Ronald Reagan was one of our 5 greatest presidents. Roger, what do you think?
There's no question about that. He changed the entire trajectory of our foreign policy. The policy of containment, the idea that we just had to coexist with a growingly strong Russia and China was completely rejected by Reagan. Reagan went back to the peace through strength policies of Dwight Eisenhower, rather than the let's go around the world looking for wars that we have no interest in getting involved with. The neoconism of the Bushes, the Clintons, the Obamas, and, of course, Joe Biden. So I agree with your assessment. Reagan is among the greatest. I'm proud to say I was with him in 76 when we challenged Gerald Ford. It's a dwindling number of staffers. So many of them have passed on. It's now a
Well, Roger, one of the reasons you're one of my heroes is you were early on with Reagan, and you were very, very early on with another guy named Donald Trump, right?
They have many things in common. They're both, big picture thinkers. They're both extraordinarily determined when they're set to something, and they both understand that lower taxes and less regulation provides real economic growth and job creation.
I'm going to get to John McLaughlin in just one second, but one last thing. I think you were one of the first people that I knew and respected very, very early on, who was a Trump person, and when Larry and I met Trump back in January 2016, we were just blown away with the guy. I had not met him before, but what was it about Trump that made you think he would be great? I
actually recognized as early as 1988 that he had the size and the stature and the independence, and he was untied to any of the past failures. I mean, he was a Republican, but he was no lover of the Bushes, for example. And I understood, above all, that he had the courage and the stamina. This is the toughest guy I've ever known. Now, look, I worked for Senator Bob Dole. He was a very tough guy. I worked for Richard Nixon. He was no slouch. Donald Trump is the toughest human being I've ever met, particularly when he sets his mind on a goal, and those goals are for the American people.
So, John McLaughlin, what do you think?
I agree with Roger. Roger and I have had parallel careers where he may have worked for Reagan in 76. I volunteered for Reagan in 76, which when I was in college, I was told by the state chairman, Dick Rosenbaum, who was...
well, wait a minute. Were you like 12 years old?
No, I was in college. I mean, I'm older than you, Steve. And Dick Rosenbaum told me I couldn't go to the college Republican meetings. And I was going to vote for Roger because my friend Arthur Finkelstein had asked me, but I was volunteering for Reagan, so they wouldn't let me go to these meetings in Albany and stuff. But we got him back, and Reagan won. But the thing is, as Roger was saying, I mean, Donald Trump is basically the extension of the Reagan coalition into the 21st century, where Reagan had working class voters convert to the Republican Party, but they were working class Democrats, Lane Kirkland Democrats. And Trump brought them into the party. They have children and grandchildren, in effect. And he made it the party of the working class voters. That's how he was able to win in 2016. I didn't meet Donald Trump until 2011. And but I did. And he was thinking about running for president then because Roger probably put it in his mind. And then he ran in 2015, 2016. And in 2016, at some point over the summer when he said, all these media polls have Hillary Clinton winning. How are we going to beat her? I said, you're going to max out the anti-Hillary vote. And there's plenty of that. Yeah. You're going to siphon up the libertarians from Gary Johnson. Remember him? He was running at 10%. And I said, then you're going to bring millions of voters into it who didn't vote for Mitt Romney 4 years before. And they're going to be working class people that make less than $60,000 a year, and you're their blue collar billionaire. And he did it, and it's unbelievable. He built this great coalition where he's got, he won the popular vote in the last election, and that's an extension of that, like Reagan.
Well, let's stick with this because this wasn't my intention to talk about this, but it's such a fascinating topic, and you two, Roger Stone and John McLaughlin, are the perfect people to talk about with this. As I said, I met Donald Trump for the first time in January 2016 when I had a meeting with Larry Kudlow for an hour and a half with Trump in Trump Tower. And by the way, when I walked into that room, I did not like Donald Trump. I thought he was kind of arrogant. I thought he was kind of a blowhard. Don't tell him I said that. But after that meeting, I was like starstruck. I'm like, this guy's going to be the next president. So. By the way, and I want to say something else.
Just to interrupt. Do you know why you had that meeting? Because he was out there on immigration and other issues, and he says to me, going over a poll, should I get a tax cut plan? And I said, yes. I said, you're running for the Republican primary. And he said, where do I get one? I said, you call Larry Kudlow and Steve Moore.
Well, by the way, this is an important point you're making, John, because we went in that meeting with a pad of paper and a pen, and we wrote out a tax plan for Trump, and that really, I joke that should be in the Smithsonian Institute because that became the first version of the Trump tax cut, which was then extended this year. By the way, I was just going to say that the true conservatives, the people who were with Reagan, not necessarily in 1980, but in 1976, like you two were. So let's stick with this, though. It's such an interesting subject. Reagan and Trump, I agree, they bookended one of the great periods of economic prosperity ever, but stylistically, they're different. And Trump's sort of in your face. You listen to Reagan's, I love to watch Reagan's old speeches. He wasn't so in your face. So how would you say, Roger, they were the same, and how were they different?
I think they're the same in the sense of their stature.
Right.
Their presence, their ability to dominate the room.
Right. Yes. I totally agree. Their willingness
to fly in the face of conventional wisdom. You'll remember that when Ronald Reagan proposed cutting taxes at 30% a year for 3 years, George Bush called it voodoo economics.
Right. I do remember that.
He was wrong. And the country club, the Republican Party, as the party of the country clubs, Wall Street, and the financial elite, those days are over, and we are never going back. We are, thanks to Ronald Reagan, actually, if you look at it, Doug Schoen has written a great book about this, actually because of Richard Nixon, who's the first one who brings blue-collar ethnic Catholics and white Southerners into the Republican coalition. Reagan builds that out. Trump reassembles that coalition to be successfully elected in 2016.
John?
Oh, no, Roger's exactly right. And what's different, I'll tell you, but by the way, just more history. I went to work for Arthur Finkelstein, who was one of Reagan's pollsters.
Oh, I remember Arthur.
and it was after Roger had left Arthur's firm because he needed somebody to fill Roger's shoes, but it didn't quite work out. I mean, I stayed longer than Roger stayed. But the thing was, I used to go see Mike Deaver with Finkelstein. I was his young guy, and it was great. So I got to see all the Reagan polls and who he was and everything. He was perfect for his time. You could give Reagan a 30-second endorsement script. He would film it in 1 second. And he look at the camera.
Well, he was Hollywood, right?
Yes, he was Hollywood. But times have changed. And when you look at it, I worked for Arnold. When Arnold won the recall, he was an action type of figure. When Donald Trump decided he was going to run for president, he had the highest rated reality TV show in history. right, and he gave that up. But we were in a reality TV age. And now you're looking at a reality TV president who can basically, not just TV, but a reality president. He can multitask. He can handle Iran on 1 second. The next minute he's traveling to the Midwest or someplace or Rockland County to do a political rally. At the same time, he can, take on the Democrats on economic issues. But he's it's all in the moment. And he, we're in the 21st century that demands it. And he's the leader that's capable of doing it. So the style is tailored for the place where we are right now in the 21st century.
Roger, one thing I think is very interesting about these two presidents is that, when Laffer and I and Larry go see President Trump, and we do that, several times a year, Trump is fascinated with Reagan. He spends the whole meeting talking, why did Reagan do this? Why did he do that? I think Trump wants to be greater than Reagan, which is a good aspiration, but he's fascinated with Reagan, Trump.
Well, both Donald Trump and his father, Fred Trump, were on Reagan's finance committee. It was lonely in New York.
I did not know that. I did not know that.
1980.
Yeah.
Absolutely true. It was very lonely in New York in 1980. The Republican establishment was for George Bush. The ones that weren't for George Bush were for John Connally. That's when I first met Donald Trump in 1979 when I went to pitch him on joining our finance committee. He asked me 100 questions. And at the end, he said, well, you know what? Your guy's going to win. And I said, why do you say that?
Wow.
He said, because he has the look. You see, we're in the television age, Trump said to me. Your man has the look. Now, Trump said, I have the look, but I'm not interested in being president. And I thought to myself,
are you serious? He really said that?
Yes, he truly said that.
That sounds like Donald
Trump.
Trump.
I tried to get him to run in 2000. He was very good friends with Ross Perot. Ross Perot kept urging him to consider running as the Reform Party candidate. Under the old campaign finance laws, the Reform Party candidate got an immediate $38 million check. You know what Donald Trump thinks of free money. So we did consider that. We looked at it very seriously. But President Trump, then Donald Trump, decided that in the end he would only probably inadvertently elect Al Gore, something he did not want to do. The time was not right. By 2016... The time was right, meaning the American people no longer trusted any of the institutions, not the media, not Congress, neither party. The time was exactly right for an outsider like Donald Trump.
I'm talking to Roger Stone and John McLaughlin, two of the smartest guys I know in politics in these United States. And we were having if you're just joining, we were having a fascinating conversation about Reagan and Trump. And I wanted to, if I could stick with this, because I just find I'm learning a lot from you guys. And I guess this one is, let's start with John McLaughlin on this one. The other politician who I've been able to meet over the last, my 45-year career in politics, who I would say rises above the rest and is in that category with Trump and Reagan, is Bill Clinton. And Bill Clinton, I knew Bill Clinton. He's a very likable guy. I hate the word charisma, but he has a lot of it. And I bring that up, gentlemen, and I want both your views on this because, they would laugh Bill Clinton out of the party today. I mean, he was a genuine sort of middle of the road, common sense Democrat. When I came to Washington in the 80s, you did have common sense Democrats. John McLaughlin, what has happened to this crazy party where the spokesmen for the party are now Bernie Sanders, AOC, Elizabeth Warren, these crazies? What happened to the party?
Well, it's Trump derangement syndrome. I mean,
is it?
Bill Clinton got elected back by a plurality. And Roger points out Ross Perot in 92 took the difference. He took the votes. Otherwise, that was a part of the Reagan-Bush coalition that existed.
That got split.
Those independence and tax cut out. So he got elected, and I ended up working for Steve Forbes in 96 because I didn't think Bob Dole was a great leader and he was great in the Senate, but I didn't think he could beat Bill Clinton. And Clinton moderated because our other friend, Dick Morris,
he did. He really did. Yeah.
So he signed off with Newt Gingrich on workfare. He did other things that
tax cuts, balanced budgets. Yeah.
Yes. Because he was afraid, he didn't want to lose. He'd lost before as governor of Arkansas. And so he stopped listening to Hillary. And but then Hillary got her chance to run, and the country said, no, we don't want that. That's over with.
Right.
And Trump he won an electoral victory that year. But, 2020, I had my doubts. I don't know about Roger, but it's like that election, I think we're 3-0. But the 2024, Trump put together this great coalition, this popular vote, swept the battleground states, where it was adding the working class voters, where basically the caddies are running the country club now, and Clinton had a way about himself that he could get along with people, but now the Democrat Party, the more successful Trump is, the crazier they get. You get the Platters, the Tallaricos, Mondami in New York City, who won't march in the Israel Day parade tomorrow. I mean, this is, you have really radical Democrats. And if we don't get the Trump voters out this year, those 77 million that voted for Trump, if they stay home, that's who's going to be in charge. They'll win elections, and it'll be really scary for the country.
So, Roger, what is your explanation for the left-wing takeover of the Democratic Party? Because, by the way, I'm not a rah-rah Republican. I always say both parties sometimes are responsible for these problems we have in this country. But I don't know. It really makes me very nervous about how crazy the Democrats have become.
Well, first, let me quickly address the Bill Clinton question. I have written an award-winning book, The Clintons' War on Women. Bill is not the lovable, charming rogue you think he is. He's a serial rapist, and I document this. He's a serial assaulter of women, and Hillary ran the cover-up of those operations.
Yes, she did. She did.
I invite them to sue me if they'd like. They won't. So, but putting that aside, the real question, of course, is when the Democrat Party doesn't offer any policies that are attractive to working class people, it's not surprising that they've been taken over by a radical Marxist clique, which is what has happened. So the word moderate Democrat is an oxymoron. They don't exist anymore. And more importantly, they cannot win a intra-party contest anymore. So that party is no longer capable of producing a nominee who would even be considered a moderate. Chuck Schumer is considered a dangerous right-winger within his caucus at this point. And by the way, if AOC should challenge him in the primary, Chuck is toast.
So I was watching this ad that just was released. I'm not a big Ken Paxton fan. I was for John Cornyn in that race, but Ken Paxton is now the Republican candidate in Texas, and he's running against this guy, Tallarico, you just mentioned. Have either of you seen this new ad that Paxton has put out on the real Tallarico, where he says, I'm against beef in Texas. My favorite people are transgender people and all of this stuff. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Jeff, it's a 2-minute internet ad, but it's got a lot of facts in there. I mean, he really is radical. He doesn't fit in Texas at all.
So we got John, 2 minutes. You would admit that Texas demographically has been trending in the wrong direction, unlike Florida. So Texas has been progressively becoming bluer overall. On the other hand, I still think at the end of the day, Paxton will beat Tallarico because even Tallarico is too far outside the mainstream for people who are still registered as Democrats in a state like Texas.
So we got about a minute and a half left. Hold on. I just want to ask you guys, well, John, especially you, this one. We were supposed to talk about this on the interview, but we got sidetracked. But the other big race everybody's looking at is the L.A. mayor race. Give us 60 seconds.
We just we did 400 likely voters for the California Post Tuesday through Thursday, and it's 2/3 of them are Democrats. And Spencer Pratt is tied with Bass, 30% to 30%.
Wow. You serious?
Mine's at 23. Wow. She might move up. Over 60% of the voters in L.A. disapprove of the job that Bass has done. They are unfavorable to her. And the question is, who's better to beat her, Rahman or Pratt? And Pratt's going to be one of the two. The question is, can Rahman have a good weekend that enough mail-in ballots go in and she could beat Bass? Otherwise, Pratt might have a shot to win in November.
Roger, any thoughts on that race?
The turf is not friendly, just in terms of demographically and by party registration. Karen Bass says her two political heroes in life, Mao Zedong and Fidel Castro. I kid you not.
Jeez, no wonder she's such a great leader. Hey, that's Roger Stone, folks, and John McLaughlin, two of the best in politics. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining.
The Larry Kudlow Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.